Tom Chi was here last year as well. He led a workshop, and I was like, Tom, we gotta get you on the main stage because you're so brilliant, and I want everyone to benefit from your experience and knowledge and heart and being. Tom is one of my favorite people. He's a brilliant person. He's been in high-level executive roles. He's now doing his own work as an entrepreneur, and he is built this whole series of how to rapid prototype, and he works with all kinds of companies at scale to help them bring their products to fruition more quickly, more easily, more joyfully. So he's all about accelerating the rate of learning. One thing you might not know about Tom, that he also has a strong passion for the environment and is investing and coaching with a lot of startups that are helping to solve the issues of climate change. So I just want you to know that about him too. So Tom's one of my favorite people, and I'm really excited for you to spend this time with him talking about how to create a culture of learning. So with no further ado, Mr. Tom Chi.
Yeah, the intro is probably better than the talk. So good we got that out of the way. Okay, we're going to talk about how to create a culture of learning. And so I guess I'm more known for shipping a bunch of hardware and software. I worked on Google Glass, the self-driving car, Project Loon. I shipped a bunch of web software to hundreds of millions of people. I helped to create Microsoft Outlook, sorry. And then since then, I've worked with a ton of companies to help them speed up how they innovate and all that sort of thing. And I'm teaching them a lot of different techniques around how to go do this. And culture, the underlying culture, oftentimes comes up over and over as this thing that also needs to move in order for you to be able to move these techniques. This is like the cred slide, which I actually don't like that much, so we just get past it. That's all just to say, I do this work. And actually, maybe the only important thing about the cred slide is that, I don't like to do things in the abstract. The stuff that I'm teaching you is stuff that I've worked on with people, and it works. So, or at least it's worked so far. It may not work for any of you. All right, so 3 different lessons today. One is knowing is the enemy of learning. Another one is what it looks like to move away from right and wrong. And then the third one is a kind of maybe a slightly different approach to deep listening. All right. So first lesson, knowing is the enemy of learning. So there's a phrase that knowledge is power. And I don't know, it depends on how important power is to you, but that phrase is not exactly wrong, but there's a little twist on it because I notice what people do with their knowledge is not necessarily a great expression of power. See, what knowledge is knowledge is a noun. And then knowing is the thing that we can choose to go do with that noun. And that's not the only thing that we can choose to go do with it. This is a verb that we're choosing to go do with our knowledge. And just like really any 2 verbs, it's really hard to do 2 verbs at once. In this case, this person's trying to juggle and ride a bicycle at the same time. It's a lot harder than doing just one of those 2. And in the same way, it's hard to be in a state of knowing, a verb, and in a state of learning, a verb, at the same time. It is kind of like juggling and riding a bicycle. But it actually turns out that it's much, much worse than juggling and riding a bicycle. Because in our brains, doing the verb of knowing actually shuts down our ability to learn entirely. Now, what does that mean exactly? So there is chemistry that's released from your hippocampus that basically lets you move short-term memories to long-term memories. This is you going from, here's the stuff that's happening right now, to, oh, this is cool new stuff that I know now. And it turns out that when you are doing the verb of knowing, it actually shuts down the release of that chemical. So it basically, when you are trying to tell everybody everything that you know, you're literally shutting down the capability of your brain to go form new learning memories. Because when you're in a state of learning, what you're actually trying to do, what the brain is trying to do, is it's trying to hold its current sphere of knowledge solid and whole. And when you're in the state of learning, it's actually trying to do the opposite. It's trying to expand your current sphere of knowledge. And you can see these 2 verbs fight each other pretty much directly. And it makes sense, too. Why would biology make something like this happen? It's relatively straightforward. It's because if I'm trying to go be in a state of knowing and relay things that I know for sure, I don't want that to be corrupted by new stuff that I'm learning in the moment. So this is on-purpose chemistry. But when we don't know the difference between the 2, Because I think people use the word learning, knowledge, knowing, all these sorts of things in a kind of a loose way. They're not really paying attention to what's happening in the mind when all this stuff is happening. When we do it in a loose way, we mistake knowing and learning for each other all the time. And we mistake knowledge, our relationship to knowledge, these two relationships to knowledge for each other all the time. So we're going to make this into an exercise because Jenny said make everything to an exercise. So here we go. What I want you to do is all of you guys have a paper and pen, and this is just going to be a minute or two, but I want you to write down a really stubborn challenge from your life. So do it right now. It can just be a sentence or something like, this is a thing that sucks, da-da-da, right? And as you write that down, imagine you're writing that down, that's the heading. And underneath the heading, you're going to write down 3 bullet points, could be 4 bullet points. That kind of range is fine. But I want you to write down, here are some of the things that I know for sure about this problem or situation. So maybe your problem is like, my boss won't allow this new initiative go through. Oh, what are the things I know for sure? Well, he's so focused on this, he won't listen to anybody else. Okay, what else do you know for sure? Well, this initiative is not important to him because no. What else do you know for sure? So this is the kind of stuff that I want you to write down, just 3 or 4 bullet points about some things that you know for sure about this situation that you're stuck on. Okay, so now that you have some of those down, I want you to circle any one of the 3 or 4 things that you just wrote down. So you have 3 or 4 bullet points, just circle one of them. Don't think about it too hard. That's not going to be, the next thing is not going to be that hard of a challenge no matter what you circle. But I'm going to give you now exactly 1 minute to look at the thing that you circled, and I want you to come up with as many things that you could still learn about that for 1 minute starting now. Let's go. Okay, that's time. So anybody that would like to share, what was the thing that they were stuck on and what could they still learn about it? Anybody? I saw you guys all stomping and everything. You can do this. Go for it. Oh, it's coming over to you. Bucket relay. There you go.
Hey, so one of the things I struggle with is accountability.
Yeah.
My perception that other people aren't being accountable, and my judgments about that is that people aren't doing what they're saying they're doing, and they can't be counted on, right? And so what the reconsidering points, the deeper points that I was thinking about is, what are they doing instead of the thing that I think they should be doing? What is holding them back potentially that I could be a partner to that in? Could I be not seeing actions that they're taking and I'm just seeing the ones they're not doing? And maybe are they suffering?
Okay, great. So hold on a second. So remember, so this all just happened. We did this whole exercise in like 3 minutes, right? So rewind to the past a minute and a half ago when you had just written the things that you know about the thing that you're stuck on. And like think about the energy that you were feeling. It's like, and then this and that. And then compare it to the energy right now after you have listed some things that you could still learn. Tell me, compare and contrast a little bit.
Yeah, it's about personal power, what I might have agency over, right? Versus there's no access and blame. There's judgment and I can feel egocentric and good about it, maybe. But the other thing actually gives me actions that I could take to improve this situation. Or just remove my judgment from it and let it be.
Yeah, and the feeling of it sounds like there's more freedom to it. Like there's something that you can do again. Like you said, I'm getting back to my personal power. And I want all of you guys to kind of reflect on that moment a minute and a half ago versus now. Like that feeling that you had a minute and a half ago when you're like writing it down, it's like, and this is wrong, and like, why doesn't I understand this, and that? That feeling compared to this feeling, that feeling is the feeling of knowing. I know for sure that this is true, and this is true, and this is true, and that's why this thing cannot change. And everything that is cemented in your life is bolstered by little pillars like that. Pillars of things that you know for sure. And I want you to feel that feeling because it's the difference in the feeling that will tell you like, oh, I'm in a state of knowing again. Holy crap, right? Now, it didn't take that much. I only gave you 1 minute to go change it. And we didn't even change everything about everything. We just looked at one of the pillars and we said, for a second, is there anything still to learn about that? And what was that feeling of learning like? It was like, well, it's a little bit more curious. It was open. Some of the power comes back to you when you're back in that spirit of learning. And I want you to feel that feeling as well. First, yes, so I'm just going to put a little bookmark there. I won't do like lots of Q&A because we don't have infinite time for this presentation. But I want you to kind of like mentally bookmark the difference between those feelings. And I'll tell you as a skill, like what I've developed over time is I'll be sitting in a meeting and people will be saying things and people will be saying things, and I'll instantly hear, oh, they're in a total state of knowing around that. And it's not to go blame them and say, oh, like you're screwed up, you're in a state of knowing, da da da. No, no. Like it's just for me to understand that their position is actually probably not going to change, given that they're in a state of knowing. Right? They're not open to any type of new learning. So my goal right now is actually not to go fight them into any new position. My goal right now, if I hear that people are in a state of knowing, is to ask some of these questions about the things that they know for sure. Because then it starts to like, they're like, oh, well, I guess we don't know that yet. Right? Or I guess we could still learn that. Yeah, that'd be interesting to go find out. And like little by little, it begins to soften a bit. And in the course of 5 minutes, I'll like steer something from totally blocked, into people are asking questions again. People are putting things together on the board again because they've all stepped out of that state of knowing. So I want you to first understand this feeling in yourself so that when you hear other people in that state of mind, you're able to catch it. And it's these sorts of questions that'll disarm it. It's a whole skill. I'm just going to go to lesson 2. Here we go. So lesson 2, moving away from right and wrong. So this entire talk is called like creating a culture of learning. And you say, well, compared to what? And I'd say the overall culture of the world is a culture of right and wrong. And what does this sound like? It basically sounds like if you do a good job, people praise you, you get more responsibilities, you get a promotion, people pat you on the back, fantastic, earn more money, all that. If you do stuff wrong, you're like, maybe you shouldn't do that anymore, like you don't get the promotion, people are listening to you less in meetings, all that sort of thing. And it is the culture of most workplaces. It is the culture of most of the world, actually. This actually probably should not sound like anything special to you because this is how everybody treats everything. But what I will say is that this culture is antithetical to teams learning quickly, to innovating quickly, to really coming together amazingly as teams. And I want to go contrast it with a culture of learning. And a good way to go do that is we'll do an example. So imagine you ran an events company, because this is cool because we're at an event that's all very meta. And like, let's say you're the head of an events company, you have 2 employees that are working for you, and they're off organizing different events. Like maybe one is organizing in Texas, and another one's organizing in Minneapolis. And Minneapolis person comes back, and you as the boss is like, how was the event? And the person's like, oh, it was fantastic. We got great speakers in there. Like we sold out within the first 2 days, and we opened extra seating. So financial success. We got all the people that we wanted. Fantastic. And in a culture of right and wrong, you would basically be like, wow, that's amazing. Like you did such a great job, and that person's thinking about like, oh, this is going to go really well on my annual review. All these sorts of thoughts come through. Now, the person who did the event in Texas comes in, and they're like, and you're like, how did the event go? And they're like, yes, so not as many people came as we wanted, and there was like this little thing about a fire. But like nobody died, so it's okay. And you're sitting there, and like in a culture of writing, it's like, uh-oh, maybe this person shouldn't be in the events beat at all. And like, yes, that's probably going to show up on your annual review. That time you set the venue on fire. Now, how might this sound different than in a culture of learning? So same sort of thing. The Minneapolis person comes in, and they say all the same stuff. And you're like, fantastic, it sounds like the event went really well. What did you learn, though? And then the person's like, oh, sure, yeah. If you want to book great speakers, then here's the thing that we tried, and it really got responses from people that we didn't think we could get before. In order to get the tickets promoted well, then you can try this, that, and that, and like this really worked well for us. And they start to express the things that they learned. So great. And you can see how this sounds different than just like slapping the person on the back and saying, good job. Now, in the culture of learning, what happens with the person who did the event in Texas, right? So, caught on fire, Well, once again, the boss in the culture of learning is going to say, okay, well, sounded like it didn't go the way that you had hoped, but what did you learn? And that person's like, oh, what did I learn? Holy crap. Well, yeah, you need to announce stuff like more than 4 days ahead. You should not put like the place to like just leave loose flyers near the barbecue area. It's important, no furniture near the fire escapes. And here's the thing, in the culture of learning, you might have learned 15 things from the person that did the event in Minneapolis and 17 things from the person that did the event in Texas. And now the organization knows 32 things, right? In the culture of right and wrong, a lot of times you don't even touch those things. You're just like, great job, do more. Terrible job, get out of here, right? And like 32 things are lost. Now, I tend to say that the culture of right and wrong is diminishing, the culture of learning is additive for the following reason. Now, in the culture of right and wrong, it's clear why the person in the wrong is diminished. Because they're like, oh man, I burned down the thing, I'm probably gonna lose my job, no one's gonna listen to me anymore. It's clear how they're diminished. But actually, even the person that does the right things in the culture of right and wrong is diminished. It's a little bit more subtle. This is what happens. They come in, Minneapolis event was amazing. Fantastic, can you do this next one? It's very similar. It's like, cool, Seattle event was amazing. Fantastic, why don't you do the next one? It's very similar. Phoenix event was amazing. And all of a sudden, this person is building an entire identity around doing events in a very specific way, right? And when it comes to, now maybe like a year down the line, they have a really innovative idea and they're like, oh my gosh, this would turn everything on its head. It's a super exciting thought, but like, my track record is really good right now. And if I like take a risk like that, well, I might be screwed, right? Because I'm the person who's known for doing blah really well. And if I do it like this instead of that, then what if I don't get the praise? And this is not everybody, but a lot of people that are successful in the right and wrong paradigm start to feel hamstrung over time, where they're like, oh, I'm known as the person that does this, I can't change. And you'll see this in their career tracks too. It's like, oh, I've been in this role for so long and people see me as good as this, I can't change. Right? Because they got told over and over, you're good, you're right at this, you're right at this. So a culture of right and wrong is actually diminishing for everybody. A culture of learning is additive because whether the place burned down or whether you had a great event, you're going to get those new learnings, you're going to get those new learnings. Now, practically, how do you actually try to get something like this done? Oh, shoot, here's the exercise. Jenny said to put exercises in there. There's more things about how to get it done afterwards. First, we're going to do it. I listened to what she says. Okay. So we're going to partner up right now. Yes. Everybody find a partner. I'm going to pull out a stopwatch. Just right next to you. Don't make it complicated. If you don't have a partner, stand up and just like find another person. Yes. Are you guys already doing the whole exercise? Oh, you are. Some of you are and some of you aren't. Okay, well, great. The ingredients are on the screen right now. I want you to basically tell each other a story, and it doesn't need to be long because we don't have time for long. So just in like 2 or 3 sentences, here's a thing that's like right and wrong. Here's a story about right and wrong that we're telling each other in the organization all the time right now. And then the other person's going to go. And then I want you to both reframe it and just say in a couple sentences, how could I say this about what we've learned to get here and some things to still learn? You guys got it? So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do the whole thing starting now. Let's go. Okay. So we're basically out of time, so we're not going to be able to do, we're not going to be able to do the third exercise, but I just want to leave you with 2 ideas. So the main thing that will allow you to move from a culture of right and wrong and a culture of learning is stop counting score on right and wrong all the time. Right? Like whatever you end up counting score on, that becomes your culture. Right? In a way that I often phrase this is that culture is basically just the observable behaviors that you choose to celebrate or ignore. That's all that culture is. Right? So right now, you're choosing to celebrate right and wrong all the time. You're choosing to ignore learnings. What you want to do instead, you want to invert that. You want to make it the goal of your business every single week. How many things have we learned this week that can affect the way that we do business next week? Like have that be a tangible number. Is it 3 this week and 5 the next week? Has it been 0 for 10 weeks in a row? Like that's the stuff. If you're noticing that as an observable behavior, it will begin to become your culture. And then the very last thought, because I gotta go, is basically, no, it's good. This is a super quick formula to go from being disempowered to empowered. So basically, whenever you say that you're disempowered on something, it tends to be that something about how you're describing it is large, abstract, or far. So let me give you an example. The entire executive team is not being responsive to these cultural issues, and like, I have no power over it, right? That's large, abstract, and far. Now, if you want to come in and say now, the way to become empowered is small, concrete, and near. So small, concrete, and near might sound like, I could send an email to this one executive who seems kind of more open to talking about it and learning a little bit more what some of their concerns are, and I could probably do that right now. Right? So whatever you're stuck on, this is another quick formula to go fix it. You've either made it large, abstract, or far, or all three. And the antidote is basically to flip that around. And it can be about the same issue, right? Both of those statements were about the same issue. So I'm not saying run away from your problems, some things are too hard, don't touch them. It's just a way that you've constructed in your mind that makes it impossible to make progress, and this is the antidote. Okay, thank you. That's it. All right. Yes, we did it.